Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, it is always my honor and pleasure to stop right here and to make several announcements, if you will. And that is to thank our guests coming because they are coming with a couple of things I personally deem very expensive in my life. My time. Time is such a precious commodity, and many of us misuse it. We are not understanders of what it really means to take this 24 hours that is given to each and every one of us and utilize it to the best. And Mona is here to share some of that precious commodity, and I want to thank her for it. The other is her journey. That housed all the things that she was and made her this powerful human spirit that we're about to engage in conversation. We're curious as to that, and I want to thank her for coming and sharing that with us. Mona, welcome to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much, Ken. What an honor to be here and to have a beautiful conversation. I'm really excited for it today. So thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Tell the folks the things that you have going on in your life right now as to how do you serve? I tell people the life of a servant. How do you serve? What do you have that you have given birth to become that servant?
Yeah, so I'm living on a beautiful, magical, little, small, tiny tropical island here in Thailand. And here on site, I give a couple of workshops. At the moment, mainly focused on shadow work because it's a big part of self-love, and we will go into more depth about that later on. So I have a few workshops here on site, but I'm also working online. My main tool is energy healing, is quantum healing. So I give one-on-one sessions also remotely. Works perfectly fine because everything is energy and there's no limitation to space and time. So that's beautiful. Yeah. I absolutely love that work. And the biggest project I'm actually currently giving birth to is a facilitator training that I will host in September here in Thailand for people who are interested in stepping into the servant role. So people who would like to work holistically with other people, because very early on in my journey, I understood that trauma is quite complex. It doesn't really help just to go to therapy and analyze it and talk about it. Like we need to see the person as a whole. So we need to work with the physical body. We need to work with the emotional realm. We need to work with the mindset. We need to work with the soul and also with the energetic body. And in this training, you will learn how to work with your clients on all of these levels to create transformational experiences that lead to more wholeness, love, and light. Yeah, so that's what I'm currently doing.
That's beautiful. I love the holistic approach to the individual when you encompass all of the individual. That is powerful stuff, because when that individual emerges from there, boy, are they something to be reckoned with. So talk to us. We usually like to go back in here at Threads of Enlightenment, to go back to our first place of we are welcome in this planet. After the hospital, the family kissed you, the doctors did everything, mom and dad bring you home, they toss you into this little cage that we call a crib, and now they began to just impart into you the wisdom, the trauma, all the different things that they have accumulated in their life. Talk to us as to your family life and what was that like?
It's quite interesting because when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, and you would have asked me, how was your childhood, and I would have said like, I was all okay, okay, my parents got divorced and they were here and there, a couple of things. But, I was always playing everything super small because I was always the strong one. I could always hold everything and I didn't have any access to my emotions back then. So I was completely blocked and unaware, really, really blind, really, really unaware. And then if I look back and I would have read a trauma-informed book back then, I think I could have ticked 80% of the boxes, when you're out of the sudden you start this journey and you realize, there's so much work to do. And it was really literally opening Pandora's box. So from my childhood, my parents like separated when I was 4 or 5, and my dad was not really present until my teenage years. And my mom is, yeah, a very interesting character, let's say it like this. Also highly traumatized. I love her dearly. I have forgiven her, but she's definitely one of my biggest teachers. So she has quite like a narcissistic background, let's call it like this. And it was very interesting as a super intuitive and actually also highly emotional child to grow up in that kind of household without having any boundaries, without having any space for yourself, without having any awareness how to feel and how to process emotions. So my teenage years were quite wild. I think it was this typical journey of kind of like finding balance and also finding a deeper connection through actually partying and also like doing substances, because there was a sort of connection. And I absolutely love being on the dance floor. Like that was my medicine, actually. That helped me to shake off the things out of the body. And it's so funny when you look back, like how everything kind of like circles back. And in the end, I did somatic release exercises back then without knowing what I was doing. And then I think in my early 20s, I was very blessed because my dad called me, and I was in a phase where I used to work in marketing, actually. So it was a really high demanding job. We worked like night shifts and partied a lot, and it was a lot of fun. I really loved that phase. But there was a moment in my life where I woke up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and going through my to-do list, and having now all that knowledge, I would say, okay, I was kind of like running towards a burnout. Whereas back then I had no awareness about these things. And my dad called me and asked me, hey, don't you want to come to India for like a 3 weeks panchakarma treatment, which is a complete physical detox? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So it like really came in for the right time. And I did this physical detox. And even though it was just physical, it helped me a lot to reset everything. Yeah. So I learned for the first time to not to do anything, to be in peace with myself. And it really slowed everything down. I remember when I was coming back to Hamburg back then, I was walking down the streets and I felt like I was in slow motion, where everyone else was just like rushing. And this effect lasted really long. And it also brought me on the path of like really doing yoga on a daily base. So that really started that kind of like first, connection to the spiritual path, I would say. And then later on, in my mid-20s, I took my first sabbatical because I was one of these high achievers. I was really good in school. I was the best one, even squeezed in an internship between school and university and so on and so on. And my dream was always to travel. And I'd never allowed myself to give myself this free time and this break. And in my mid-20s, I finally did. So I traveled for the first time 3 months in Southeast Asia, funnily also Thailand, where I'm now, where I landed, basically. Fell in love already back then. I never had this, as you described in the beginning, I didn't have this breakdown or disease or burnout, like this massive life shift or event that kind of like pushes people to the edge where they really need to shift and look at things. I didn't have that. I thought, okay, I'm just going traveling, like naive as I was. But in the end, it was the most eat, pray, love holiday there was. And I did my very first Vipassana retreat there. That's a 10 days meditation course. And that really changed my life. And I was like, wow, this is so powerful. I was flying on a cloud, so happy without anything, and I was just like radiating just pure bliss. And on this journey as well, I heard for the very first time, or not for the first time, but I finally was able to listen to. I heard from ayahuasca, from plant medicine the first time. And I remember this meeting very well. It was in the very beginning of my journey. And there was a man just like, I don't know, meeting me, like we just crossed paths. And he told me about it, and I was like getting curious. I was like, oh, can I do it here? And he's like, no, wait, the medicine will find you if it's the right time. And literally when I came back to Berlin, I was living in Berlin at that time, literally 2 weeks after I sat in my first ceremony, and that was like the rocket ship for my transformation. So my personal medicine was plant medicine for many, many years. I drank quite a lot. And on that path, discovered different modalities, developed my own modality, and one thing led to another. And here I am now sharing these things because I was so blessed, really, like I'm so grateful that I understood so early on, the more I change within myself, the more magic happens in the outside world. And that everything is literally just a mirror, and we can free ourselves and liberate ourselves from everything, regardless how big the pain is. And this, I don't know, just like speaking about it, like, like, oh, it opens my heart and it's so beautiful. Like, this is for me the most fascinating thing. That's why I love transformation so much. And seeing that in myself, seeing that in my clients is just simply like, okay, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have a friend of mine, Jonathan. He's on your island as well, and he does some of the plant medicine approach, and I love it because he and his revelation, what his organization do, they create that safe space. They have medical folks there. They have all types of people that are able to walk with you during that journey, so it'll take away some of that fearfulness when one is embarking on it, and because you don't want to allow that fearful feeling to sit with you while you're starting that process. It can carry you different areas, if you will. So his organization, they work with people, and I love what he does, and he's actually on your island as well, and he has centers all over the world that assist people with that. So here you are, this young girl. The dad calls you. You went to India, of all places. What a place to go to for your first introduction, if you will, Mona. What happened? You said, here's this girl that is closed up. And I know when you are placed into a situation, even location wise, like India, and being in a situation where you're dropped in just like that. What happened to Mona when she was dropped in just like that? You had said that things began to happen. What exactly, Mona, did started to happen in you while you were now being ushered into the other dimension, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that feeling very well when I came out of this 3 weeks treatment, and I literally felt like reborn, you know? I felt like I have a new body, and even though we just worked on the body, it did a lot to my emotional state because trauma is stored in the body as well. So there was a big cleanse in
Yeah.
this in itself as well. And the more you are relaxed in your body, the more you are also relaxed in your mind because everything is interconnected. So what happened? I mean, the thing is, the cleanse you do there in India is quite strong. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily everyone's favorite, Like, I mean, you have to kind of like, do certain cleanses up, down, out, both direction, and things like that. And it's quite strong, yeah. And you have to drink ghee in the beginning at the preparation
Yeah.
time, which is medicine like cooked cleared butter basically. And every day you get more and more and more, and the taste is just like absolutely not tasty to describe it in a kind way. And it was just like, I don't know, even back then, I have to say, I never had like these big resistances to these things. I always was all in. I knew deep inside of
Yeah.
myself, okay, this is the right thing to do. I was always like very focused and very strong minded. And if I had a feeling like, if my intuition told me, okay, this is right, you need to do that now, and then I was always all in, regardless what I had to do. So it was quite a journey. I
That's great.
mean, yeah,
That
it's
is a powerful thing to have, though, Mona. That's a powerful trait, if you will, to have within oneself. That if it's that you're open, and when you're open 100%, and you're going for it. Because when you're like that, you get a chance to experience some really in-depth, powerful experience when you're open like that, and you're not allowing the programming of whatever other people say to interrupt you and your belief. And so that's a powerful trait to carry with oneself as you are navigating in that in the personal development arena, if you will.
Yeah, I think it was very helpful to be a rebel. I was a super rebel as a teenager, so like I didn't listen to anyone else. So I think that was a trait that I could finally transform into something useful. So yeah, definitely, yeah.
So here you are progressing. You had this wonderful experience, and it awakened you. You came back in, and you said you were walking, and as you're walking, everyone is still flying by you, and you're in this quiet thing. What did meditation? Because I know being in India, you will then be exposed to that tool, as well as the yoga and so forth. These are um, tools, if you will, that we can utilize to transform the self, practices that we incorporate into our life that will make us powerful, will make us more designers of our life um, than those that are living by default. As you are beginning to incorporate these powerful tools and into your life, Mona, what began to happen to you? Because I know the purpose of these tools and what they do to an individual, but I want to hear you begin to express some of that. What started to happen to you in your meditation, in your yoga time, as you are transitioning and moving forward in your life?
Yeah, great question. I think in the very beginning, it just simply helped me to center myself, to be more
Mm-hmm.
present. Also, especially, I think like being German and having some discipline helped me a lot as well, because I had quite like I started and I had a daily practice, and I
Yeah.
really rarely don't have it. And so just simply waking up in the morning, and there are more mornings where you're a little bit moody, or you're here and there, especially as an emotional being like I am, like you're not 100%. For men, that's maybe sometimes different, but we women definitely have that. So, and just simply having a tool to realign your whole energy, your whole mood, your whole vibration, your whole attitude, and starting the day with a fresh vibe and an energy where you can really direct your whole focus, your whole purpose, your whole energy in a much more positive way. So I think that's really the baseline that helped me in the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning, just being centered. But the more it
Yeah.
progressed, I mean, meditation is so underestimated, I believe, because like I had experiences where I was time traveling, into the universe, seeing my aura, and were able to kind of like even see my whole inside of my body, my skeleton, my organs, and moving things around, and like really going a bit beyond and healing myself with that as well. Because of course, like there is just simply presentation, or not presentation, meditation, where you can be present and you focus on the here and now,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn how to just simply navigate sensations without being attached to that, like being more neutral to everything that happens. But if you go a little bit deeper, you can really go beyond, like you can really learn how to heal yourself, how to direct energies within your
Yeah.
body and open things up. So that's actually quite magical, I believe. So right now, my practice is definitely different to the beginning. So when I meditate in the morning now, I do mainly a complete energetic cleanse, because I always say to my students, like as a child, we were taught to brush our teeth and to have a shower and to take care of our bodies and to wear new clothes, but no one taught us to actually take care of our energetic field. So what I basically
Yeah.
added was the brushing the teeth, but just for your energetic field to really kind of like cleanse all the layers of existence, plus also bringing the focus in and bringing more light, more positive energy in everything that will happen throughout the day. So even sending that into the future. So that's quite powerful, actually.
It is, because I did the same thing. Many of the principles that you're talking about, dancing was one of the things that I incorporated in my life. When I went onto the dance floor is when I dealt with all of my stuff, if you will. And I was able to release much of my pain there. In my meditation in the beginning, once I started incorporating meditation into my life changed drastically. Um, I was able to control my entire day from my time in the morning. And again, Mona talks about it, is energy. Everyone is energy. In my meditation, I've also traveled, and I very rarely speak to people about it. Once in a while, I'll tell people about some of those journeys that I've had. And I remember my first, when it first happened to me, I was in the midst of a meditation, and I felt myself take off. And I was moving at such a rate, it was too fast than what I was usually accustomed to. And I started to go way too far. And I remember calling myself back and say, slow down, I need to do this um, a little slower because of what was happening to me. And but yeah, I have done those things that you've talked about, and it is very important, everyone that is listening to this conversation that we are having. The meditation piece, I tell people, that is where we are energy and we are able to control the energy. Mona said that she would send that Claire um to clear the energy path ahead of her through her day. I did the same. I was walking corporate America, and I can tell you, in hospitals and dealing with those energies. And so when you control your day there, you would be amazed at how it is like walking and operating in slow motion. It truly is. You see all the bodies flying by, and people are talking, and the words are very slow. And it's given me the ability to process things and answer clearly. Here you are, this young girl, a rebel fighting. She is been a rebel for all her life. You got back, the gentleman said to you that about wait for you when it is your time with the medicine. 2 weeks later, you're in Germany, of all places. Who would have thought that that type of treatment would be there? You would have to come to Asia, maybe South America, and so forth. But here you are. Talk to us about that encounter, because there's nothing that happens in this life that is coincident. There is no such thing. And so until you guys get that, you'll
Yeah.
understand. So here, your individual came into your life. Wait, Mona, you got back 2 weeks later. How did that come about?
Yeah, it was really magical because, as I mentioned, it was my first sabbatical, right? It was my first out of Europe, basically. And I was traveling with a friend of mine, and we were like 24/7 together, you know, we were like discovering everything. And we landed in Bangkok first, and then we moved up north to Chiang Mai and then to Pai. It's a kind of like a super little sleepy hippie village. And my friend was tired, so she wanted to sleep early. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have some food. And it was the first time I went outside by myself. And I found this super cute little, hipster, basically vegan restaurant. And I just sat down, had some dinner. And then this man, I don't know, he was, oh, God bless him. I hope I don't say wrong age, but he was like, I think like probably mid 40s, maybe 50s. I don't know. I'm really bad at this. Like, if he listens, I apologize. But, you know, like, definitely he was a bit older than I was back then. And he just sat at my table, just across me, without even asking, without saying anything. And I was like, okay, hi, you know. And then we started having a conversation. And he told me he was into cacao. I never heard about raw cacao before. And now I'm actually hosting cacao ceremonies, which is also a funny thing. And I don't know how, but we started talking about ayahuasca, and I got really curious. Like there was again this impulse, this curiosity. And I know when I have this, okay, there's this nudge, I need to follow that. So I was like, oh, can I drink it somewhere here? Like how do I find it? And he's like, no, wait, I was like, okay. And I really listened to it. I didn't search for anything. And my best friend at that time, I was so blessed that we actually started drinking together. Like when I was back in Berlin, she called me and she said like, Mona, I went to an ayahuasca ceremony. You have to come. And I was like, oh, there you go. Here we are. And I went. And I have to say my first encounter with that medicine was actually super soft and super gentle. Like I mean, the medicine is claimed to be female. That's why I'm saying she. So she was very soft and gentle to me in the beginning. I saw a couple of things very blurry. So I did know that there was stuff I need to look at. And one particular topic about my ex-boyfriend came up and I cried like a baby. And I had the feeling maybe I need to vomit or to purge, but I didn't really allow myself to. So it was all kind of like quite tranquilo, I would say. But something really opened up and I got so curious to this world. And I remember the very first year I was maybe having 4 ceremonies, the year after already 8, and the year after I drank already more than 50 times. So it kind of like accelerated quite quickly. And it just like, it's hard to find any words what this medicine brought to me in terms of healing, but also in terms of knowledge. I always used to say, because many of my friends, they couldn't really understand because they knew me from Mona's going wild party scene and now she is addicted to this thing, basically, they couldn't really understand that it was something completely different. Although I took a lot of my friends also to medicine circles. And I always said like it was going to university. I always say I have a different PhD in psychology. So the medicine taught me so much. It's priceless. I'm beyond grateful for this journey. And it will be still like, I'm still drinking every now and then. It's still like my teacher, like this intelligence you meet is just beyond. So it's truly an honor to be with it. Also, that said, it's not for everyone, even though I am a big fan of it and it was really good for my personal journey, it's not for everyone. I mean, I don't offer the medicine, like I work with different forms which are much gentler, much softer, much more accessible for other people. And I think it's really important on your personal journey to find your own yoga, to find your own medicine. That is really resonating with you. And the medicine was just simply with me. And that's why I got, a little bit hooked with it.
What it does to, let me explain to people what it does. It gets you to your destination faster. It's like taking the elevator versus taking the stairs. And let me explain. Because when one is burdened with all those thoughts and they are not able to control their thoughts and to become, as one of the sages said, to become the masters of one's thoughts. Well, this will help get you there without all the noises coming in. If someone is there to guide you and walk you through, you will find yourself in this elevator that will get you to that floor a little faster than the stairs where you're exhausted and puffing air. But you have to be, it is not for everyone. And so you have to be ready for that. But it's a wonderful journey, but it can, I've heard some other sides from as well. So one must learn your timing and listen to your intuition, listen to you. You will know. as Mona said, the gentleman said to her, not yet. And so many of you that are listening, maybe it is not yet for you, but wait and it will be your time. So here you are experiencing all this wonderful stuff. What were you doing with you in this stuff? What was happening? What were those things that you started discovering about you? Because one of the things that I wanted to engage in is your perspective on loving the self. And so I wanted to um, kind of delve into this aspect of what was happening to you and with all of these experiences that you're engaging with.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think first it was really literally opening Pandora's box because I wasn't aware of how much trauma I actually was carrying with myself. And so that was quite overwhelming in the beginning, right? Like if you never learned how to actually process emotions, how to just simply feel, and you've suppressed so many, and then you open yourself up to that wave, it's quite overwhelming to navigate all of this. And that was quite a journey for me. So like first it was just simply like discovering myself in a painful way, that I had so much pain inside of myself, but at the same time realizing the more I feel this pain, the more I look at this pain, the more freedom I create within myself, the more I feel light, the more my relationships with myself, but also with others, are transforming and shifting and shaping, like some I would have never expected or guessed that they could transform in that beautiful way. And I think, like, I mean, self-love, coming back to that, I mean, I always say to my students, like, self-love is a muscle you have to build, you know? It's not something that clicks and is there and it's just lasts, you know? Like, we all wake up sometimes and we have a good day and sometimes not such a good day, but we need to come back to this compassion to ourselves. And I think, like, this deep transformational journey I had with myself, but also seeing my clients going through that and just learning a lot about humanity and suffering in itself, and about our experiences we have and what we struggle with, gives you a big portion of compassion towards yourself and also to others. And that's a very, important ingredient to self-love, because I used to be such a negative person, you know, like I used to do gymnastics as a young child and as a teenager. And my personal trainer, she said to me, like, oh my gosh, I've never seen someone as pessimistic as you. I always said, like, I can't do this. That's not possible. No, 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 you know, and I didn't even know where that was necessarily coming from. I mean, definitely from my mother's kind of like lineage was passed on. And I remember having a moment when I was 17 or 18, and I just realized, okay, Mona, come on, that doesn't really serve you, you know, just stop it. You know, you're standing in your own way. So I had really a bright moment there, if you want to call that, you know. So I just stopped it. And I really just like, and that's the power. We really have the power to change our reality every second, right? And that's also really important to understand, that you're just one decision away for shifting your whole paradigm, for shifting your whole life, for shifting your whole perspective. And it can be as simple as that. You know, we like to overcomplicate things often. So I had this, and everything got lighter, but still this part of myself was operating in the subconsciousness, and I didn't go deep enough, let's say it like this. But shadow work helped me a lot. And like the medicine journey was a big of a part of this journey of like looking at all of these parts that we don't like about ourselves, that we deny, that we are ashamed of. And I think, I mean, I think we need to have anyways a much broader perspective on trauma. You know, many people still think that trauma is just like this horrific event. If people go to war, experience physical or sexual abuse, but trauma is everything that's just like simply overwhelming to your nervous system. And that can be simply you're dropping your teddy bear as a child and no one was there to help you to pick it up, you know? So
Yeah.
everyone has trauma, and it's just a different scales, different colors, a different intensity. And for everyone, that's your reality. So it's your absolute you're living in. And yeah, just like looking at all these parts within yourself and coming to peace and harmony is a thing that never stops, you know, like
It never stops. Yeah.
it never stops. It's really like, I mean, of course it gets much lighter, even though like it sounds always so disencouraging. Yeah, why are they doing this spiritual work when it's never ending, you know? But it gets much lighter, I can promise that. And it's much more fun, it's much more joyous. Like life has a completely different quality. But you will discover deeper layers. You will discover different encounters in your relationships that are anyways a mirror. I love the relationship work as well, to bring you back to self-love, because your partner is just simply mirroring you every part of yourself that you don't own. And yeah, it's a real journey to come back to your heart and open your heart and really living from the heart. And this is also a completely different frequency we're emanating. So maybe just to throw in another topic while we're on it, I love to work with emotions and with vibration and bringing people simply into a higher frequency. So if you look at it, like, for example, depression is super low, you know, and then you have anger, you have sadness, you have like neutrality, and you move up and you move up and you move up. And it can be really like an upward spiral where we really like elevate things, and we kind of like elevating our overall vibration, I would say, which doesn't mean that we can't be angry or sad, you know, in between. It's just like there's a key of like knowing how to feel that emotion that's present without putting a mindset on it, like feeling guilty about it or talking yourself out of it, trying to suppress it again, because the mind is a really tricky one that, you know, sometimes we learn, oh, don't be sad, don't be angry, and we're making it even bigger rather than just relaxing for a moment and feeling the emotion. And I think that's also a big part of self-love for myself, to really allow yourself to be who you are in every single moment, and still like knowing how to navigate yourself back to your heart, back to your center, is a big piece of that for me.
Yeah, self-love is being present. I think that's where it starts. That once we are present, and present meaning allowing the self to experience all of the emotions, all of the feelings, all of those different things. I believe also that everyone is traumatized, and I believe the natural birth is a spiritual example that we can look at. All of us came through trauma. Now, trauma is not, as you said, it's in different format. Trauma is based on the interpretation that one interprets a moment. And a parent could say to a child, hey, the child is crying for the parent, and the parents say, I'm busy right now. The parent is literally busy, and it's hard for them to come. That child will interpret that as rejection. And so something simple like that could set off a, you know, a whole life pattern that is destructive. So trauma comes in many forms, and it doesn't have to be, as Mona had said, it doesn't have to be these really dark things. It could be something very simple, but it's our interpretation of that event that determines whether it is a trauma or not. And I think what it is, I'm learning, Mona, is that we as human beings, we personalize everything. In my walk, I am learning um, how to watch that, and not to personalize everything, but to allow myself to be present within it, but not being personal within it. And so when someone does something, the only time I get hurt, Mona, is if I am taking it and personalizing it. But if I allow myself to be in the moment, to allow that person to be, they may be in a state of growth and maybe in a state of pain and so forth. But because of their pain, I shouldn't be able to allow that to become a personal attack from whatever they say. And so I'm learning that lesson, and it is one that forces you to be present, and I have to always be present to allow myself um, to allow the other person to be. And so here you are. I love this conversation. You have so much wisdom within you and so much to give that you had said earlier in our conversation that it is that easy, this shifting of one's perspective. It really truly is, guys. Everybody's listening. It is that easy. We say we complicate it and think it is not easy. I call it the statement of faith, and the reason why I say that is that you at that moment believe it so strongly that you will now take the corresponding actions to make whatever you have just said within yourself a reality. And you will put the plan together. It is that simple, guys. Trust me, you just have to come to the end, if you will. And so here you are, um, Mona, you are learning and you're seeing all these different aspects of the individual, and you become a student of humanity. And I think that is the key. And how do you become a student of humanity? By becoming a student of the self. As you see your pain, you can then look and recognize pain. And I tell people the most important journey you'll ever do is loving yourself. Because after I learned how to love myself, Mona, when I looked at that individual and I told them that I loved them, I actually, for the first time after I loved myself, I understood the power of what I just said. And before that, I said it because everybody said, "Oh, you love, you love, you love." No, but when I came out of my journey and I learned to love me with all my mess and things that I saw as my demons, and become empathetic and become kind and forgiving and all of those things to me, so then I can now, I was a single dad with four boys. I can now express that love at a deep level to affect my children, to affect my staff that I was over. I responded different. So here you are, um, as you began to respond different, Mona. What led you into now becoming a servant? Where did you begin to put this together and say, you know what, I think I got something here that I can offer to others? What was that process like that led up to that, and what happened as a result of making the decision to go, I will serve?
Yeah, interesting question. I think like after my very first Vipassana, I was like, oh my gosh, everyone has to meditate. Everyone has to do a Vipassana. This will change the world, you know? Like you're like super enthusiastic and you want to like, you know, just like preach it on everyone. It's like this typical phase you go through in your journey. I think many people
Yeah,
can relate. And yeah, so I was sharing it, and like even then, you know, because I could just see, like for me, it was always like I'm a very like big picture person, so I could really connect the dots, how helpful certain methods, modalities were, and how it could shift
yeah,
things. You know, if they work in my side, in myself, why wouldn't they work in someone else? You know, that was very clear
yeah,
for me in the beginning. So first, I was just sharing things, and then, of course, classic, I did my yoga teacher training, my second yoga teacher training, and then I did my
yeah.
coaching training, and then I started coaching. So with the coaching, it kind of like started that I serve people, and I really loved it back then that the training I did was designed to kind of like bring in your own personal gifts. You know, it was not just like super
Hmm.
strict and clear like it is written in the coaching books. And I really love that approach. So I already played a little bit around with that. And I
Yeah.
think the first bigger offer I did was 4 or 5 years ago with a friend of mine where we hosted a retreat. So it was not really, it was more than a yoga retreat. It was really a transformational retreat, because for me, it was always important to go deeper. I like to just go deeper and really go to the source of problems and really making transformational experiences happen. So this retreat was a 7-day retreat, which was designed to the chakras. We had topics and exercises, and of course the yoga was aligned, the food, everything was aligned. And it was mind blowing because, like back then I was saying to my friend, because she was saying like, yeah, do you think should we integrate like sharing circles at the end of the day? And I was like, oh, calm. I don't know. It's just a yoga retreat. We're not drinking medicine or anything like that. And then we were on this journey. I mean, we agreed of having the sharing circles. God bless her. Thanks to her, and we cracked everyone so wide open. Every night someone was crying and having an epiphany, and like it was just like mind blowing, and it was like really for me, especially because I was more in this realm of doing this really intense, deeper work of realizing how powerful tools can be that are much softer, that are much more accessible for people. And I was really amazed. And then, one step led to another. And I'm always evolving. I'm always growing. I have a million and trillion ideas. It just came to another thing. I hosted retreats with my partner together. We also co-hosted some plant medicine retreats with another facilitator together. And here on the island, we're working constantly. So giving workshops and hosting events for that. And I also, of course, teach online a lot and give sessions one-on-one here on the island, but also online to just simply help. And it's just like the biggest reward you can see when people come out of the session and their eyes are clearer and they lit up and they're like, like, wow, I feel so much lighter. I feel so much more happy, and wow, and this is really what fuels me, I would say. Like, it's really remarkable.
That's great. That's beautiful. I want you to invite us into one of those sessions, if you will. And I tell people you have to excavate the traumas that are there, and you hear the the onion use that vision uses peeling layers away. But this journey is until you die, and probably beyond that, because you are such a spiritual, energetic being that there will be continue. You talked about why are you doing it over and over and over? Because we are so deep. We are so deep and infinite in the sense that we will always be going deeper and deeper, and there seems to be no end to us of how we are. And as we go deeper, we uncover many things. You uncover things that happen in this life, and as you go deeper, you could find even in previous experience and so forth. So the deepness is necessary in order to give birth to the new you. And when that happens, I tell people you are now, your perspectives are being tweaked as you're gaining each and more insights as to who you are. And when your perspective changes, your life changes, everything changes. The way you speak changes, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you interact with people. And that's what Mona's talking about when you go deep, is so that you can experience things that will cause you to change your perspective, which will change your life. Invite us, Mona. You can remember, I'm sure you were so blessed to have many of those moments when you're there with someone and you see the the receptiveness of your words begin to creep in, and you're looking at them and you see that light slowly begins to get brighter within them, and they begin to notice the greatness in them. And many of them, as you said, because trauma is an emotional thing. Many of our sicknesses are based on trapped trauma that are in our bodies that manifest in diseases. And when we release those things, life becomes interesting. Now, talk to us, invite us into one of those as the light begins to happen in their life, and you got an opportunity to witness, if you will, spiritual birth. Talk to us about one of those occasions.
Yeah. So regardless if it's in a one-on-one session or in a group workshop, I often say like, okay, I'm sorry, here's the disclaimer. I don't have the magic pill for you today. You won't be Jesus afterwards. Might happen. I don't want to exclude that possibility, but just giving it. But what often happens is I work with guided meditation, and I bring the energy healing part in that. So I kind of like open an energetic space where transformation is much more open and like a bit like, yeah, a little bit like a speedboat, basically. So it kind of like really creates a really beautiful, safe space where people feel safe to drop a little bit deeper. And what often happens in the first place is just simply they gain an insight. Yeah. So, for example, if we talk about trauma, right? And in our day-to-day life, we have an issue and we have a problem. For example, I don't know, you want to ask for a promotion, but you don't dare to, or you have a big presentation and you get sweaty and you're nervous, or you want to ask someone for a date and it doesn't really work out, or you don't like, something is blocked, regardless what field, what area of your life, it doesn't really matter. But when we look at this through the workshops and through the work I'm doing, and we travel back where the source of this block is coming from, we often discover moments that on a logical mind level doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So for example, I had one client, she wanted to launch a new course, a new online product, and she was really blocked. She had everything written down, but she couldn't really get started. And she was like, really like, and we looked at this issue and traveled back and identified that her heart was blocked. So her heart was blocked and she didn't feel seen. She didn't feel heard as a child. And once we opened the heart space again and she felt so light and she felt connected, I texted her a week after asking, hey, how are you? And she's like, I'm launching in 2 days. I was like, wow, okay, that was quick, So like, if you look at it, okay, heart closed, there was a childhood trauma, block in your current career, doesn't necessarily make sense, but it makes sense on an emotional level because she was afraid to step in. She was afraid to show herself. And this is also a very big part of shadow work that is often forgotten. Shadow work is not just looking at the parts we don't like about ourselves. Shadow work is also looking at the parts we don't dare to step in. That means finally stepping into our light, finally stepping into our gifts, finally stepping into our full potential, because so many people, they like to play small and don't share their unique gifts. So we also need to look at that. So then you see like, okay, they connect the dots, they move the energy. And the beauty of it, that's why I love the modality of energy healing so much, because just to explain it a little bit, if you look at the layers of existence, so we have a physical layer. Okay, this is my body, like it's very clear. There's a table, there's a chair, and so on and so on. We can see and we can touch things. Then we have an emotional layer, our emotions, our feelings, hard to touch, but it's there, like we all know, we feel. Then there's a mental layer, our thoughts, our mindset, our belief system, which literally creates everything, because everything is based on mind in this universe. But then there's also the level of the soul, right? And especially in traumatic events, it often happens that we lose parts of our soul. That's why we don't feel whole. That's why we don't feel complete. And that's why also the healing journey is not a journey of fixing you. The healing journey is a journey of coming back home. Yeah, bringing all these pieces you've lost back into yourself, because you're perfect as you are. But let's just like collect all the pieces you kind of like neglected and threw out of the window along the journey. And beyond that soul level, there is an energetic level. So when we are working in the energetic space and we pull the plug here, it will automatically ripple down in all other layers, because manifestation works that way, right? We have pure consciousness, we have energy. Someone has a bright idea. Oh yes, let's, I don't know, bring this and that to life, let's invent an iPhone, Steve Jobs back then. And then he made it real, right? So this is like how manifestation works. So if things showing up on your physical body, it's basically the last stage where your consciousness and your soul actually says like, wait, Mona, there's something to look at. Why don't we go a little bit deeper? So that's why I love this so much. So when the people then have this epiphany, okay, I have this insight, this is connected to that. At the same time, they're releasing this old stuck emotion in their physical body, but they're also shifting their whole vibration. And this is the most fascinating part, because as you said, like when we open up to healing and we open up to this completely new perspective and we are vibrating at a completely different level, we're becoming a match to completely new things. So classic, I don't know, woman was always attracting bad guys, and like understands, it's with the relationship with my dad, but still like these guys are coming into her life because life is working for you. Life wants you to learn. Life wants you to evolve. So these guys are still coming because there's still something to heal. There's still something to look at. But once you made that shift, like everything changes and you won't meet these guys anymore. It's literally that simple. And it's that fascinating. So yeah, your whole life can change. I always, when I look back and through like the most major shifts I made, it was literally traveling to a different planet. I was living on a different planet all of a sudden, because my life changed so much, like how I felt inside, how I interacted with people, my career, my financial status, the opportunities, the people that are coming into my life. It was just like, wow, like I haven't been here on this planet before, like life looked very differently before. So that's really like literally quantum leaping, actually, where you make big, big jumps.
Yeah, and it's that simple. And I tell people, don't complicate it. We have this ability to complicate things. As Mona mentioned, life wants you to grow. Just you have to learn how to recognize it, become a student of yourself. Trust me, as you begin to engage with yourself and come back home, as Mona said earlier, um, it's this beautiful dance. Everything becomes different. Life, interaction with people, the wind has a different frequency than when you were several years before. Everything changes at that level. Um, the, the forks in your body as a musician, when you tap that fork and your frequency begins to move forward as you change your frequency, you're able to have an effect on a glass that is able to crack several feet away from you or whatever. And so your frequency becomes higher, cleaner, more proficient, and you're able to achieve much. It is all within you guys. I love what Mona said, and I tell people this all the time. Yeah, one that is awakened, and I love the terminology. I heard that from one of the folks that I interviewed. She had said, "Those that are awake," and I loved it. So I am borrowing it from her. Um, we paid a price for becoming awake, and the price is learning who we are. And as we learn who we are and what we are capable of, we are then able to become servants. And here I have been engaging with this beautiful, powerful individual and all of the changes that she's doing as she gained insight about herself. Her life and the things that she used to serve will always change. And that's the beauty about this life. And we want to welcome all of you. Everyone that has been listening to us, we've been talking about all kinds of wonderful things. All of you who want to get a little deeper in your relationship with yourself and others, your business, how you handle things. I want to get in touch with Mona. I'm going to give you all of her information so that you can touch base with her, get into her one-on-one, get in, come and take a vacation on the island and spend some wonderful time and enjoy and get a face-to-face. But you can still reach her via online so that you can begin there and then come out here for the invite. Um, get yourself free. It is really easy. Just again, I'll put up all that information so you can touch base with her and change your life. Mona, thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. This has been a beautiful conversation, and we are going to continue this conversation. Trust me.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to see you on the island. So you have no excuse
Yes.
anymore. So that's a good one.
I don't, and so I'm looking forward to it. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor. Thank you so much.